Far East of Eden, The Fourth Apocalypse was released on the Sega Saturn back in 1997 in Japan only. Usually games in the Far East of Eden series take place in a fictional country, Japan, which is a warped parody of Japan. This game, however, takes place in a warped parody of the United States in the early 1900s. The parody of America that the game takes place in is very strange, and a lot of the towns and cities poke fun at what the real cities of America might have looked like 100 years ago. All the towns in Alaska are full of igloos, Seattle is a very small native village, and Lake Tahoe is a very quaint town that has a bunch of monkeys hanging around for some reason. People familiar with towns and geography of the United States may find the interpretations made by the game's developers quite hilarious, and people living in the United States might be curious to see how their hometowns turned out in this game. The game is an RPG with very simple gameplay, and the battle system is just like the one featured in the Dragon Warrior series. Battles take place in first-person perspective. Enemies are shown in the middle of the screen with a list of multiple commands at the top right corner. Simple commands like attack, items, defend, and run away. Even though the battle system isn't anything new, it's very simple and it does its job very well. Another great thing about this game is that it does away with the outdated and tedious random battle system. Now, you can walk for more than 15 seconds without getting into battle after battle. However, if you do somehow find yourself being overwhelmed with enemies and wind up with all of your party wiping out, you get to keep your experience points. But any items you used to try and survive the fight will still be gone. There might also be some money taken away, but I haven't really noticed this, and that's because of the way money works in the game. In Far East of Eden, The Fourth Apocalypse, when you defeat enemies you get their remains, their bones, their armor, their internal organs, or whatever else they might drop. After you receive their remains, you go to a Hunters Guild of America location and sell all the remains for cash. Usually though, you only sell enough items to buy equipment and healing items. So if you wind up wiping out, you don't really have to worry about losing money because you've already spent that money on healing items. The Sega Saturn was able to produce some really good 3D graphics, but it really wasn't well known for them, mainly because of how hard 3D titles were to make on the Saturn. Instead, the Saturn was more known for the souped-up 2D graphics that the system offered. Just because the game is in 2D, though, doesn't mean that this game disappoints graphically, or presentation-wise for that matter. This is all thanks to the Sega Saturn's 2D abilities and the effective utilization of space on the CD-ROM format. The graphics in Far East of Eden, The Fourth Apocalypse are very colorful and sharp. The developer really paid a lot of attention to detail with little things like shadows, imperfections in grass and dirt, as well as a very good use of shading on things like statues and trees, give the game a very nice, hand-drawn quality. As well as the attention to detail and the animation being used in the dialogue and battle scenes, very interesting graphical effects are used, like the lighting effect seen here at the very beginning of the game. Another thing about the graphics that was mentioned before was the space on the CD being used for some really nice animation from both the enemies and the characters in the game. When the enemies attack in battle, it's almost as if they're attempting to attack the person playing the game on the other side of the screen, which I thought was pretty cool. Take this boss for example. That's just awesome. Another great way the developers took advantage of the space available on the CD-ROM, besides the use of CD quality music, was to add quite a lot of voice dialogue throughout the game. Even though I don't speak Japanese, the voice acting seems pretty professional and is actually quite a lot of fun to listen to. The game starts out with the main character rising, windsurfing in Alaska and falling down a hole. He blacks out and finds himself in a flashback. The flashback takes place when Rising was a boy in New Orleans, playing hide-and-go-seek with some of the local children, Yumimi, Sam, Dave, and Magu, who kind of looks like Arthur the Aardvark, Dave shows the gang a picture of a ghost taken at a local mansion at the top of a nearby hill. The group of children find themselves going down into the basement of the mansion and finding a strange-looking chamber with a man laying down on an altar. The man wakes up and the frightened children run out of the basement, one of them dropping their candle as the house burns down. The children decide to go warn the adults, but just as they're about to go to the town and warn them, Rising's Native American sensei, Red Bear, leads the children to the Shrine of Eden in the town. Once in the shrine, the gang notice that Sam isn't around, so Red Bear and Rising go to find him. Unfortunately, it seems that Sam's been possessed by the man the kids saw in the mansion earlier, and he reads the Book of Demonic Spells, also known as, and I'm being completely serious here, How to Make Really Good Tex-Mex Cuisine in Under 3 Months. Basically, he winds up unleashing great evil upon America from reading this book. Red Bear then reveals that the mark on Rising's left shoulder is the mark of the fire hero, who must protect his homeland from the evil that has been unleashed. Rising wakes up in the flashback in Alaska, where he was called to help Red Bear. Even though he has a headache, he ventures off to do what he was destined to do: save America from the many people who wish to unleash hell upon it. Despite the game being in Japanese, there's a really good guide on game FAQs that can help understand what's going on in the game and how to play it. If you can play Japanese Sega Saturn games, either on an actual Japanese Sega Saturn or on a modified North American or PAL Saturn, I'd recommend picking this game up, especially if you like RPGs. The battle system is really simple, the presentation exceeds what one would normally expect from a Sega Saturn title, and the story and its setting are very unique. The game can be found for around $15, not including shipping, so it's a pretty cheap find. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all later.